Welcome, friends and viewers of Fred and John Talks. I'm John, and this is
Alfred. I mean Fred.
Fred.
Not Alfred.
What's up
That
today?
that joke's getting old already, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, there may be some millions that haven't seen us yet, so
That's true.
They may appreciate it.
Yeah. We were joking on another episode. I told John for the first time, I had never told him this before, but my given name is Alfred, but I've always gone by Fred because I was named after my Uncle Fred, whose name was Alfred.
I like Fred better.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, all right. So today we're going to be doing our second consecutive fun episode.
Absolutely.
It's not heavy, although I'm going to share something in the introduction. I wouldn't call it heavy, but it is something that is only loosely, it's actually a digression on the topic. And the topic today is, John, this was John's idea. Great brainstorm on his part. Yay, John. Go, man. To purchase a number of fortune cookies from a Chinese restaurant. And we are giving credit to, well, I know you had to buy them.
Oh, it's Chinatown.
Chinatown in what town?
Winchester, Virginia.
Winchester, Virginia. Thank you, Chinatown.
They're on Millwood Avenue.
All right. Yeah, that's a little advertisement for them, but you did have to pay for it, and then remind me how much I owe you.
Nah, that's all right.
Okay. Anyway.
It's your good fortune.
It's my good fortune. Aha. It bodes well. Okay, I had my glasses. Oh, here they are. Okay, so I'm going to begin with a story about a fortune cookie that goes back many, many moons ago. I lived in Florida in the mid-1980s, actually 84 to 87, and I was a single man at the time. And I moved to the area and got a job where one of my three brothers lived. And, he and I and my sister-in-law spent a lot of time together. I was an uncle to their three children. I did some babysitting for them and did fun things with them. Like my nephew Steven loved basketball, and I would take him to play basketball. And I did a lot of dating, and a lot of it was thanks to my brother and sister-in-law who introduced me to women that they knew who were single. But even that's a digression.
They wanted you out of the house.
They wanted me out of, well, I had my own apartment. But the story I want to tell is this would have been around 1985, 86, give or take. And we went out to dinner to a Chinese restaurant. And I opened my fortune cookie and it said, "You will live long and enjoy life." Now, I want to tell you, at no other time in my life, and I've never heard anybody else tell a similar story, did I take fortune cookies with any seriousness. You read them, you laugh about them, or cry about them, and throw them out. But I thought, because those were the years, I've talked about this in another video, those were the years where I was wandering around from job to job, doing some social work and people helping, but also I was a mason's apprentice. And worked in a lot of different fields. Felt kind of lost.
How old were you then?
I was, let's
20s?
see, I would have been in my late 20s.
Late 20s, okay.
Yes. And so when I got this fortune, "You will live long and enjoy life," I took it to heart. I kind of took it as a sign. And as a Christian man, I'll spell it out. I took it as a sign from God that this had some truth to it. Okay. And it was a consolation to me at the time because while I was enjoying a lot of things about my life, there were a lot of things I was not enjoying. But here's the rub. I kept that little saying, and we're going to be opening...
Just a little piece of paper. Really.
A little piece of paper. We're going to be opening our fortune cookies. We have 16 in all, so we're going to open 8 apiece. I kept that little piece of paper and carried it around in this little book for almost 40 years.
Yeah, I think you told me about 40 years.
About 40 years. And occasionally I would open it and read it. But here's the digression of my story. This is a pocket-sized New Testament and Psalms.
Oh.
It is so small, you practically need a magnifying glass to read it. And as I've gotten older, I use larger Bibles now because I can hardly see this, even with my reading glasses. But I came to a point about a year ago when it just occurred to me that, you know what, I'm 67 years old. It said you're going to live long and enjoy life. And again, I'll say, there's a lot of parts of my life that I enjoy. There's a lot of parts that I don't. Namely, what I've talked about a lot before, having gotten divorced at age 60. Mm-hmm. Living alone for the past 7 going on 8 years. And one day when I was feeling kind of blah, I threw out the fortune that you're going to live long and enjoy life. And I said, this is silly to keep carrying this around. But I'm not dead yet, and who knows what the end of the story is going to be, how long I'm going to live, and how long I'm going to enjoy life.
Well, it can't be a bad luck omen because you kept it all those years, and then you discarded it, and you're still cooking. You're still going.
Still going.
Right.
Still keep on trucking.
Have you learned to eat with chopsticks yet?
I never learned to eat with chopsticks.
All those years of carrying that around and you don't eat with chopsticks.
Mea culpa, as I say in Latin. My fault. But here's that's the lead-in to talking about the New Testament and the Psalms. Because for you Christian viewers out there, I want to share something that I think is worth sharing. Even though it's not on specifically on the topic of fortune cookies. It's about Saint Jerome. Saint Jerome, who was one of what's called the fathers and doctors of the church. He was born in the 300s AD and he lived to 400s AD. He was known as, quote, an irascible man with a sharp tongue, unquote. And he famously said this, again, for you Christian, and even you Judeo-Christian clients, actually Christian, I stand corrected. He said, quote, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. And he made the case for urging Christians, quote, to pay attention to serious Scripture study. This is a must, not a luxury option, unquote. And on a final note about St. Jerome, he is the one who is famous also for, and mostly for, translating the New Testament, which was originally written in Greek. And at the behest of the Pope at that time, Pope Damasus, he translated the original Greek into Latin, which was the language of a large part of the world at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Latin, which was at that time called, and I quote again, the Bible in the common tongue, making it accessible to Western Europe. And this was the Bible used, unquote. And this was the Bible used throughout the Middle Ages, which roughly, years-wise, roughly went from 470 AD to 1450 AD. So I just thought I'd throw that in for our Christian clients. You know that John and I are Christian men. We've done episodes about our faith. And so I just thought I'd throw that in before we dive into our fortunes.
You know, I wondered when we were talking about doing this, it seemed like a fun thing to do, to read some fortune cookies, fortunes, and just see where it goes and just kind of free associate. And I thought, well, Fred, at your age and my age, we have 140 plus years of wisdom, right? So how much more wisdom can the cookies bring? We'll find that out today.
We are about to find out.
We're about to find out.
You know what? I will fall off this couch if one of them reads, "You will live long and enjoy life."
With that, I'm going to open up the first fortune cookie. You've certainly done this before, I hope. Bingo. And it fell out. Is that a good omen? I hope.
Let's see what it says, and then we'll decide if it's a good omen.
You have executive ability. Apply this in the future. You have executive ability. Apply this in the future. Well, if I were younger than I am now, I would say that may be more applicable, because I did have executive ability when I was practicing medicine, because I ran my own practice. I ran the business side of it as well as the medical side of it.
True that.
And hired staff and fired staff. Now, how to apply this in the future would be maybe to help you, Fred, with running the YouTube site and managing our content and managing what we're going to talk about. But the future is laden with all kinds of excitement.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That was going to be my input. The first thing that came to mind, we are on the same plane. That's what close friendship, that's one thing about close friendship that develops. A corollary to that is, long married people, get to know each other so well that they practically can finish each other's sentences at time. And even though, as a mental health therapist and marital therapist, we counsel couples to not engage overmuch in mind reading. He should know what I'm thinking, or she should know what I'm thinking before I say it. No, that's called mind reading, and you often mind read and guess wrong. But with long married couples, my parents were married 68 years. They could practically complete each other's sentences. But anyway, all of that is to say, the first thing that came to my mind was, you can use your executive abilities in our YouTube program. And you said it.
Thank you. Well, I think it also shows that how much fun you can have opening up a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
And just chatting about it.
Not as fun as opening Christmas presents,
well, that's
but
true.
It runs a close second.
That's coming soon.
All right, I'm going to break bread. Cookies. My first one says, you will be successful in whatever you do.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
So you will be successful in anything you do.
In whatever you do.
Whatever you do.
What are your thoughts on that? And then I'll chime in.
Well, you were successful, because this is applying to you. You were successful in baseball and education, raising children, having a career. You're a counselor. You're a master Italian chef. I mean, he goes.
I wouldn't go that far.
He goes on and on. It's a very positive, upbeat thing, and you know what? We always encourage our public to watch us, because we're all about friendships and looking for ways to help people who may be lonely or who feel isolated, and this is hopefully something that will stimulate you and give you some comfort watching this episode on fortune cookies. I don't know, what are you thinking?
Okay, well, I want to piggyback on that by saying we do some of these episodes, like yesterday's called Name That Tune, and today's called Fortune Cookies, for fun.
Yes.
I've said before in a video, that's one of my favorite words. I have quite a few favorite words in the English language. So fun is up there in the top 10. Fun. Anyway, my thoughts about that, you pretty much covered, but You covered more thoroughly than I did. You went back to when I played baseball and sports, and enjoyed boyhood success in sports. What I thought about was I've enjoyed success in being a self-employed therapist,
Okay.
which is a double-edged sword. For many years, to feed a family of 5, a wife and 3 kids, I worked 12-hour days for many years. And back in that day, I was working so much, and the counseling profession can be so stressful. I developed kind of chronic tension headaches, but it was eventually helped with those, and I don't have those anymore, thank God. But my business, Lighthouse Counseling, I started in 2003. It is now 2023, so that's 20 years of my own practice. But I've been a therapist 31 years. Anyway, to stick to Lighthouse Counseling, it has been a success. It is still a success, even though I'm semi-retired and I only work 6 days a month. So that does speak to me. You're next.
Okay, here we go. Are you excited about what this is going to say?
Always.
Let's see what happens. You will have many friends when you need them. Oh. Ooh. Speak to me on that. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, first of all, it speaks to what already is, and that is, I've referred to you sometimes as the mayor of Winchester. You seem to have friends everywhere. Your pickleball friends, your all these people you've known when you were a doctor. And, you delivered almost 17,000 or 18,000 babies, and So, but then more to the point of what we do, we have this excellent. I don't like that word. We have this fabulous friendship. We just enjoy each other's company. We enjoy our conversations. We talk about everything under the sun. And I couldn't be more grateful for a friend like John. And there you go.
Well, we welcome them into our friendship too, and hope that this will make them feel good. I think one of the key words in there is when you need them, because when you're in trouble, when you're down, whenever you're sick, or when you're really ailing or have a bad diagnosis in medicine, or you have a mental illness, or you're
going through a crisis.
Crisis, yes, whether it's divorce, whether it's a child who, you lost a child, or maybe you have a son or daughter who was killed in action in war. Friends are really those who will come around and be with you when you need them.
There's John, there's nothing to replace friendship or equal it.
No.
When John said, we welcome you into our friendship, I loved that phrase you used.
Thank you.
This is about our 40th video, and I don't remember John saying that phrase before. We welcome you into our friendship, but what I want to tack onto that is we not only encourage, we urge you to widen your circle of friends, especially if you just have close acquaintances but no deep friendships. I have often said, because since my divorce, guys came out of the woodwork that I became friends with. Some of them were friends from the past that I had fallen way out of touch with because of all the hours I worked in the business I own.
Yeah.
And others were new friends I was introduced to by a third party. And I have often said I can count on more than one hand the number of guy friends that I have who, if I called them in a serious crisis, I wouldn't do this to anybody if it wasn't a serious crisis. If I called them at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and said, I am in deep despair and crisis, they'd be knocking on my door as fast as they can get here.
That's the need them. They're there when you need them.
There when you need them.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, go, Fred.
My next one says, You will find your solution where you least expect it.
Find your solution where you least expect it.
Let's reflect on that a little bit. You can go first if you have any thoughts.
Well, I guess the first thing that kind of comes to mind is that whenever in the past I've worked on a problem, or I've puzzled over something, or I have a project I'm working on and I can't seem to get it done, or I start it and I leave it, I start it and I leave it, and then something will happen and trigger a thought, or maybe I'll just read something online, or maybe I'll be seeing something on a television show, or maybe I'm talking to a friend, and bingo, when I least expect it, that unsolved little issue pops in my head, because what was said, or what was the word, fits the problem.
Yes.
And I'm like, so that's the solution, is to go do this, or to add that, or to go buy that, or read this, and be be better off for it, and the problem's over with. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know it's one of those things in life where a lot of things happen when you don't plan them. It doesn't happen that you find a solution while you're planning and planning and planning.
You know the saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my input into this, and I'll try to condense it because it involves a story, and I'm famous for digression. So, well, first of all, I want to make the point. So you will find the solution to your problem where you least expect it. We did 2 videos on dream interpretation, dream interpretation 1 and 2, and don't be surprised if you find a solution to a problem through a dream.
Oh,
and if
that's good. Cycle back to that. That's a good idea.
Cycle back, even if you've watched them, and pay attention to where I tell certain stories from history where famous men and women resolved a problem, or or got out of a stuck place in their life through a dream they had.
Good.
The other thing is, I'm going to tell this story in miniature. About 2 or 3 years after I got divorced,